Nico, can you hear the music?
Come on in. Take your shoes off.
It doesn't tell
Get
me
comfortable.
you guys come in the room. So
In the TikTok of it
it's too
all,
loud? Okay.
we don't let moments just be.
Is that better?
Let that beat sink in. Lady K has got you. I'm going to get you right. But let's have a moment. Let's share an experience.
Well, I'm just kind of checking in with you. I'm just going to play the music for a second while I wait for folks to come in. Okay, good.
Come on in. Take your shoes off.
Okay, good.
Get comfortable.
As you guys come into the room, say hi in the chat because I can't see how many people are actually here.
Let that beat sink in. Lady K has got you. I'm going to get you right. But let's have a moment. Let's share an experience.
I see Nico in the room. Who else is here with me?
Hey there, my peace. Moments.
Yeah, practice, right?
Smile and remembrance of spaces shared with endless laughter as the harmony of sound created so effortlessly within your presence. I instantly smile when I think of the safe space.
Anybody else in the room? I wish I could see who was here. I'm going to give it to like 5 after, and then I'll go ahead and get started. As you come into the room, please say hello in the chat so I know that you're around. I appreciate you all for coming.
Life's journey. As you prepare
So far, it seems like it's just me and you, Nika.
that journey remarkable. Have we surrounded ourselves with positive energy? Do we bask in the good and circumstance?
As you come into the room, I am playing snippets of my spoken word album. that is almost a year old. It'll be a year on November 30th. So I'm excited. Right? I like it. I like it.
Before defining the correlation to any other.
You need to be in all my business, Nico.
Mind, body, and soul, just as you would a lover. Dance within the essence of life. We get so caught up in the day-to-day grind, we tend to forget the precious moments that present themselves abundantly.
I'm going to give it a couple more minutes.
They represent the core of self-discovery and enlightenment. My core seems renewed and my soul electrified.
If you're coming into the room, hello, I am Lady K. I'm just letting people come in. Say hello to me in the chat. That's the only way I can tell that folks are here.
The embraces hold much more significance.
Yeah, I did a test before too. I was like making sure like what was in the frame and me and if I needed to back up, and I did all that stuff beforehand.
To sit back, close my eyes, and just breathe.
I'm gonna watch Marnox after mine as well.
Love with my
I guess I could just play. Right? You know me, I be old fashioned. I'm like, now what do I do with this doohickey now? All right. As people come in, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for everybody as you come into the room, for joining me today for Pages Unbound, an intimate journey through the pages of my diary. And I like to start off with an introduction. So, I'd like to take you on a journey, one that encapsulates equal parts cautionary tale and divine purpose. For you see, this mocha melanated magic is black girl beauty personified. Dripping and seeping from every pore within my bountiful bosom is both intrigue and fantasy, double dipped in eloquent intelligence and mystery. A heart of priceless gold, one that has been used and abused, misunderstood, but maintains its genuine desire for goodwill and peace. A poet whose poetry is their battle cry for their ancestors, whose stories and sorrows are dripping from her very marrow. A little black girl who navigated a tumultuous childhood, one where she wasn't black enough for the black kids, and never would she ever be white. A little black girl who had a precise articulation, was oftentimes accused of having a desire propensity towards whiteness. God forbid I just have a love of books and words. Who do you think you are using all them big words? You sound like a white girl because being black sounds a particular way. That little girl hadn't yet become this beautiful black woman standing before you today, who, with my head held high and my shoulders back, only now can I confidently say to my haters, check it. I'm lyrically gifted, spiritually lifted, poetically inclined to run circles around the linguistically challenged. Study long, study wrong when confronted by my masterfully crafted wordplay. Meant to leave you mentally conflicted and debating my meanings while I artfully saunter into my next verbal masterpiece. Now that I've formally introduced you to Lady K. Thank you. Thank you so much For those of you as you come into the room, please let me know you're here. Say hi in the chat. It's the only way I know that folks are here. I appreciate you once again for coming and joining me on this journey. I wanted to, as I get older, I take a reflection into, just all my life experiences that I've had. This poetry journey has been an extremely wild ride. It is something that I have entered in later on in life. Um, I have been working in corporate America and the federal government for over 20 years now. And so this poetry journey is new. And I am, really embracing it and seeing as far as it can go. But that doesn't mean just because my performance and my spoken word journey, is relatively more recent. As far as being like very active and dedicated to it. I've been writing since I was a kid, so I want to start off with that. Whereas, so I'm one of those old school people. I actually still have my senior's memories book from high school. My senior year is pretty much when my love of writing and words really activated. In my senior English class, we had to do a senior portfolio, and it encompassed a whole bunch of short stories and poems. And I am blessed and lucky enough that I still have my book. Now, look, I graduated high school quite a while ago. So this book has seen some things and been through some journeys. So I won't like open it up too much because there's a whole bunch of random like papers and pictures, and I have my like class flower in here and stuff. So if I open it up, all that stuff is going to come tumbling out. But this is where my love of poetry came from, and I still have a lot of those pieces. And fun fact, some of the pieces that I have on my current album, I actually wrote when I was a teenager. They were my original pieces. And if I can get the sound to work right, I will play some of those. But I wanted to start off and go through some of my original poetry. Now, obviously, back in the day, it was written down. We didn't, when, I am old enough where there was a time before computers. So everything was handwritten. But then once computers came around, I got real scared that I was going to lose stuff. I'm fortunate to still also have my notebook from like probably like 1998 to 2000, my original notebook. So all of the original writings are in here. I have just since then taken them and copied them all to paper and typed them out. But these are my original works that I wrote when I was a teenager. So this first one that I wrote is called Death by Way of Spoken Word. And as you'll notice as we go through this, there are pieces of my original work from when I was a kid that I still reference today. I plucked out pieces of it, and it is in my current work that I have now. And like I said, this was a very long time ago. So this first one is called Death by Way of Spoken Word. The words that are put forth from my pen are more lethal than any conventional weapon. 3 generations of English teachers have made me a formidable opponent. I sling words better than some sling rocks. I could cut you 10 times deeper with my words than I could ever do with my hands. You do best not to cross me because your punishment for deceit could become immortalized on paper. I'm a gentle soul with the mind of a prolific genius, a lyrical wizard whose vocabulary is immense. If you don't understand my words, look it up in the dictionary and learn a lesson. You might want to grab a notepad because school's in session and I'm about to drop some science on you. Child, what was I talking about? I emphatically believe that respect is something that is earned, so I take the time to perfect my thoughts. I carry a paper and pen everywhere I go because I never know when I might have something to say. I can't be contained. Many underestimate me only to be left grabbing their ankles in the aftermath. I give birth to this poetry as if it were a 10-pound baby. My delivery is precise and the message left behind profound. It comes quickly and sometimes quicker than I can get it out. I have so much to say I could write forever. But I digress. This is only the first lesson. Ding ding, school's out. Hope you learned the lesson of the day. This is my very first poem that I wrote. I probably was like 15 or 16 at this time. So who knows what I thought I was going to be back then, but those were the words that I had. I'm going to share a couple more pieces from my younger days. And I know, right, girl? Who knew? I love that. And there are, like I said, when I play a couple of my pieces from my album, there are snippets of this very first original poem that are in some of my current pieces that I have today. So I was dedicated to my work back then, and I still have faith in it now. This one is Love Lost. And like I said, all of these came most I know, right? Definitely evolved. Most of these came from like writing prompts that we had in my senior English class. So some of them are really cheeky, like really cheeky. This is one of those really cheeky ones, in my opinion. This is called Love Lost. The book was opened, and there you were. The pictures I used to hold so dear, the love we shared was once so great. And now it is just an empty space. I cared so much, you hurt so bad. The heart you broke cannot be fixed. You gave so little, I gave so much. And now we are just so out of touch. You took my heart into your hands, and now it trickles through the sands. All I asked was for your love. I guess you thought I asked for more. Perhaps it is time for me to flee and find another that is just right for me. Oh my gosh, that's so cheeky. But it's cute. It's a little kid writing. And like I said, I probably was like 17, 16, 17 at this time. So it makes sense. I also I had some activism in me back then. So I did write some like hear me roar, like I got something to say type of pieces. So I'm gonna do those two, and then I'll move on to some of the more recent pieces. I want to do, if it works from the album, I want to do some of them that are on the album that have the that are original pieces from when I was in school. We'll see if you can hear them. This one's called Stand Up. Stand up, my brother, and don't sit down. Don't back up and don't allow life to turn you around. Handle it and don't let it handle you. Stand up, my brother, and don't sit down. Murderers, thieves, and prisoners is the negative stigma that media has placed on you. Stand up, my brother, and don't sit down. Put a smile on your face and don't frown. Stand up, my brother, and don't sit down. Stop playing a fool. Stop acting like a clown. Ignorance and foolishness have passed. You must be qualified if you are going to last. I would have something to say. I was telling them. And then this is my piece, My Sister, My Sister. My sister, look where we have come from slave ships to boardrooms, from being maids to having our own maids, from baby makers to hardworking citizens, from girls to women. Lawyers, doctors, teachers, engineers, and entrepreneurs, just some of the titles that we can claim. My sister, as we walk down city streets, we demand the attention of everyone that we encounter. With our heads held high and our chin lifted towards the sky, we demand attention with just our style and our look. Our speech is immaculate and our attire can be called little less than impressive. My sister, with role models such as Sojourner Truth, Mary McLeod Bethune, Rosa Parks, and Harriet Tubman, could you expect anything less? Strong Black sisters who prove that Black women deserve recognition and were willing to risk their lives in order to accomplish their goals. My sister, long gone are the days of depending on a man for our livelihood, a man to carry us throughout our lives. We are the ones bringing home the bread. Many Black women are raising the future generations alone without any help from men. We have come to the point where we can do for ourselves no matter what the circumstances may be. My sister, Look where we are, Grand Valley State University, in college, bettering ourselves. We walk around this campus determined to become something, trying to avoid the huge influx of teenage black girls that are getting pregnant 3 and 4 times before the age of 20, babies having babies. My sister, look at the word itself, sister. Remember that we all need each other. We all need to respect and hold our fellow sisters in high esteem. We must start doing self reflection before we begin to criticize others. My sister, walk around with your head held high and your shoulders straight. Many great women have perished in order to make our lives more fulfilling. Don't stoop to the stereotypes and misconceptions. Remember Nefertiti and other great African queens that were worshipped and adored by their followers. We are worthy and we are important. With that kind of attitude, the sky is the limit. And if you remember nothing else from what I've said, please remember the significance of my sister, my sister. So that one was my freshman year of college. It was a time. It was a time. I also, obviously, when we're growing up, and when we go into situations, we talk about what's going on around us. So for me, my family is extremely important to me, as most people's families are. And so there was a time where my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, my grandmother on my mom's side, was going through a battle with breast cancer. So this was my piece for that. And I believe, I don't know if I was in high school or if I was in college or if I had already graduated at this point. I'm not quite sure, but it was around that time. True strength. Lying in the hospital bed, eyes crinkled from laughter and so much pain, but too proud to show it. Minus a breast today, but still looking forward to tomorrow. Daughter and granddaughters crying and waiting all the while. The patient is sending both doctors and nurses out in tears from laughter. She had a scare with breast cancer, but she would never let a disease stop the laughter that is ever present in her eyes. My grandmother, unfortunately, in 2001, succumbed to not breast cancer, but pancreatic cancer. So, F cancer, as always. But I will always remember that time where we were all nervous and worried about her, and we started when she came out of recovery and we were waiting to be able to go see her in the room. We heard laughing and giggling and we were like, what the heck? And we walked in, and even though she had just come out of surgery, she had the nurses and doctors cracking up from laughter in the recovery room. So that was just yeah, cancer is it can suck a what. Yeah, that sucks. I'm so sorry to hear that. But yeah, so my grandma was the life of the party always. I will always remember her laughter. So those were my pieces dedicated to her. Let's see. This next one that I want to do is actually one that I wrote, like I said, when I was much younger, and it actually is a piece that I did on the album. So that I don't have to talk as much, I'm gonna actually play it. And you let me know if I need to turn it up or down if you can hear it. I moved it closer to the screen. Oh, I'm happy. I know she will be proud of you. Absolutely. I joke all the time that, I started this poetry journey, later in life. And unfortunately, all of my grandparents are now deceased. And for the most part, most of them were my main drives to, they were my writers, they were my inspirations, they were my cheerleaders in the biggest sense when it comes to that. So I always like to say that they're looking down on me. And part of this journey is a result of them, and their pushing it forward from the heavens. So this piece that I'm going to do now, I actually wrote this as a kid. It is on my album that is called The Essence of Lady K, and it's called Life's Journey.
Life's journey. As you prepare for life's journey, what makes that journey remarkable? Have we surrounded ourselves with positive energy? Do we bask in the good and circumvent evil? Have you chosen your friends and your lovers as you should? Are they good for you as well as good to you? Define your happiness individually. Make life decisions that keep in line with your core values and principles.
Can you hear it? Is it better now?
Define yourself before defining the correlation to any other outside relationship. Nurture the bond between mind, body, and soul just as you would a lover. Dance within the essence of life. We get so caught up in the day-to-day grind, we tend to forget the precious moments that present themselves abundantly. The molecules of time stolen from heaven itself, that represent the core of self-discovery and enlightenment. My core seems renewed and my soul electrified. The moments stolen filled with more clarity. As I breathe deeper, my heart implodes. I tingle in anticipation of the future. The touches, they seem more intimate. The embraces, they hold much more significance. What lies ahead is still greatly unknown, but the prospects are endless. That optimism and openness shows fortitude within my spirit and energizes my mind to sit back, close my eyes, and just breathe.
I love that piece. I love that piece. It's one of my, it's more peaceful. A lot of times I am a competitive poet. So, my coach always told me that you should write about stuff that pisses you off or that makes you super emotional. So a lot of times, like a lot of the pieces that I have that are more just like go with the flow, earthy, uh th- thank you about the music, girl. We'll have to talk about the music behind it. It was a huge journey. This album was a learning lesson for me. It was really just I self produced it. I self published it. I had a friend of mine help me in the final stages, but that was really just me picking out, the music and seeing which ones my words went to and putting together the pieces that I wanted to go to on the album. So I definitely learned a lot. I'm super proud of the album, but I also know going forward and next time I will have a lot of lessons to do it a little bit differently. And did you know that spoken word, they have taken the capacity to have spoken word albums, like solely spoken word, on Spotify, Pandora, and Amazon US's version of Amazon. So I didn't know that at first. So when I did this album and I went to release it, of course, the bigging streaming platforms, they don't allow spoken word on their platforms anymore. Some of them are grandfathered in, but it's comedy, spoken word, and a couple of other things are not. You can't publish them on there. I guess there was some royalties conversation and lawsuits, so they just disabled the ability to be able to put those on the album. So or on their streaming platform. So, like I said, huge lesson learned. I'm proud of my baby, The Essence of Lady K. She is available on all of the other streaming platforms: SoundCloud, YouTube Music, Amazon UK, Tidal, Apple Music. The album is available on all of those streaming platforms. The link in my bio, I have the links for all of the different platforms. So that was my early life. The first part of the album is real low key. And then we kind of get to more present day. I started probably now about like 2 years ago, getting really serious about, becoming Lady K. And she was born over the years. I have performed at like friends' events and stuff. If they, knew that I wrote, I have some friends in the entertainment industry that pretty consistently would have me perform at their events. But it was very low key. It was very informal. I was scared, what list every time because I just wasn't used to it. I wasn't comfortable sharing my work. And then that same friend that always had me perform at his events, he badgered me incessantly about, like, he was like, no, no, you do this for real. Like, you need to do this for real. Like, I don't understand why you're not doing this for real. And I kept being like, life, things are going on. I don't have time for it. Like, all of the excuses that we make. And finally, I took it serious. And, Lady K was born, and I started performing at slams. And everything really I've done in my poetry journey has just been about me figuring out, like, oh, this is something you can do with poetry. Let me see if I can do that. And oh, you can do this with poetry. Oh, and you can get paid for it. Oh, how do I do that? Like, that's literally been my entire journey of poetry, and just like really like investing myself and diving feet first, head first, into the deep end, as I like to say, and just figuring it out. And that came to writing my very first chapbook myself. And that came, this one is a mini version. I have a couple of different iterations of it. It's called I Stand 10 Toes Down. And this really came from, I was feeling very marginalized. And I was feeling like my voice was being stifled in a lot of instances, especially as a Black woman. And that frustrated me to no end. I don't do well in those type of situations. And I didn't know how else to get it out. And so this literally was my, I'm going to show you. And so that's where my chapbook I Stand 10 Toes Down comes from. And these are all, really Black woman or cultural identity pieces in general of Hear Me Roar. I incorporated a lot of African symbols in there. A lot of times I feel like as a culture, like, because of all of the erasure of our cultural identity, that we don't know where we came from. And for me personally, it was a big deal to show that side. And so as I learn more about, my African heritage, and my cultural identity, I try and incorporate that into my work, because that's something that's very important to me. Because I can't tell you how much it just infuriates me, and it saddens me so much that I don't know my original language. I don't know, the tribe that I'm from. I don't know, specifically, where I come from, what my roots are, what are the traditional practices of my ancestors. And while I feel them in my presence, I always say that my poetry is a battle cry for my ancestors. And so I know that even if I don't know, they surround me, but it just saddens me so much that I don't have that direct knowledge of where I come from. And a lot of people don't have to deal with that same thing. And so for me, it's a big deal. And so as I learn more, and as I get older, my cultural identity is a huge part of who I am. And I really lead with that in the forefront. And that came to me writing one of my most probably powerful pieces, I would say. And that is called My Blackness. And that is really that is really my battle cry for my ancestors. So I'm going to do that one now. And it is called My Blackness. I oftentimes wonder if I wear my blackness too boldly. As a child, most people of color are taught to blend in, be quiet, don't draw too much attention to yourselves. You see, our ancestors are still dealing with the ingrained behaviors learned from their parents, who knew firsthand what standing out would get them from the police, who never symbolized protection for us, and whose own parents were just a few years detached from the cotton fields and what it would mean if they made massa upset and caused too much of a fuss. We still hold the emotional scars because of the physical scars that proliferated the backs of those with similar hues as mine. I tried to pay attention and follow the rules, but I just couldn't do it. See, I read too many books and I pay attention to too many things. So when I see things from politicians, preachers, and celebrities, such as slavery was a choice, or slavery wasn't so bad because we learned trades and skills, or slavery brought us the gospel, I can't help but stand up, speak out, and say, have you lost your fucking mind? Slavery was a choice, huh? Please, please Google the middle passage and then you come back and you tell me about choices. I stand so boldly in my blackness because if I don't, who will? They want to erase the stories of my ancestors from the history books because it makes folks uncomfortable to learn about the sins of the forefathers, the slave masters. Thank God, God gave me the gift of words and speaking. Our oldest form of history was not stored in books or on notepads because our ancestors, and they didn't let us learn to read and write. So it was the role of the orators, the oracles, the griots, and the hafiz to keep our histories alive. So I will continue our legacy. I will tell our stories. I will scream it from the highest perch. As the truth will always be uncomfortable. As painful as words can be, I can only imagine the pain and discomfort my great great grandparents experienced as they sat shackled to a bench, covered in their own excrement, ripped from their family, stripped of their language and cultural identity, and taken to a foreign land. So, no, I don't need to see another slave movie. But maybe y'all slavery was a choice, motherfuckers. Maybe y'all should. And yes, my desk at work says, welcome to my Wakanda, and is dripping in black art and representations of black excellence because I stand 10 toes down in my blackity black blackness as a revelation of just how far we have come. Thank you. Thank you. I love that piece. Sometimes, like, especially when I'm performing it, I get really caught up in the moment. And I just, like, whenever I'm performing, I always say that, like, I take on, I really, and especially that piece, I really feel like I am surrounded by my ancestors. And there's something about that piece that every time I perform it, especially, in bigger areas, I feel them. That energy just comes through me. And sometimes I get a little beside myself. And I feel like I'm a little intimidating and probably overwhelming for some. Thank you. Yeah, in person, I can be a little, a lot. It's a pretty intense piece, but I do love it. That is one of my favorite pieces. I haven't got to do it in a while because I'm trying to write a little bit different, new stuff. So that I haven't done. If there's anybody else that's here in the room, I am loving my time, my personal one-on-one with Miss Nico. But if there are any other folks, please say hi in the chat. That's my only way of knowing that you guys are here. So I want to get into, before our time runs out, I do want to get into some newer pieces that I have written that are really, I'm telling you, once I get into these new pieces and I really like get them down, then I will be excited to be able to like really like give off the emotion of them. So one of them is called Mind Games. And I really like this piece. I go through insecurities, obviously, especially as a plus size woman. So I have been, the pandemic, I added a few pounds on during the pandemic. So I am trying to embrace this new body while I figure ways to, maintain my health and all of that type of stuff. So I definitely have experienced like some, more insecurities than maybe I have in the past, due to the additional weight gain that I had during the pandemic. So this is one of those pieces that focuses on that. And I also really try to up my writing game as far as my pen game and my use of metaphors. So this piece is called Mind Games. I recently realized that my outward manifestations of exuberance were a masterfully crafted manipulation of the mind. You see, most days my life was constructed of highlight reels designed for the highly curated aesthetics of social media. But somehow, only those snapshots had found their way into the psyche of my real life. Illusions and disingenuous perceptions of what was tangible and real. You see, I had buried all of my insecurities within a clamshell at the bottom of my sea. I began floating, but with my ears submerged so as to block out all of my noise and self doubt. The confidence that seemed to come so effortlessly was a carefully constructed mask, hiding the murkiness of the reflection that appeared after the mist cleared. Only a caricature of the pearls within that I wanted so desperately to be revealed. My body's curves being riddled with more waves than before, inwardly hating the rising tides of the numbers on a scale, but afraid to admit it out loud and receive the backlash of the pirates to my emotional sanity. Sickness and life being a constant tsunami against my progress. Others can tell you, see, many don't speak on the constant tidal waves of emotions that scurry towards the surface, trying to steal all of your breath and drown you within a sea of your own self pity. Others can tell you over and over that an oasis is just around the bend, but the desert of my desired dimensions seem vast and unending. My IQ and BMI being a storm warning for the hurricane force of loneliness peeking just around the corner. I have weathered all of these storms in silence. I'm still diving. I'm trying to keep revealing the layers behind the mist until all of my reflections are in alignment. I'm still diving deeper and deeper, revealing more and more of my mysteries, my coral reefs, and loving all of the shipwrecked pieces of myself. I think, I think, now that I have finally left my insecurities to die at the bottom of the deep, I finally, I finally can come up for air. Thank you. That one is a new piece that I have. Ooh, this time went by quick. I'm gonna just do a couple more because I don't want to run into anybody to Monarch's time. So I'm gonna end with some heavier ones. This one right here is probably not. Thank you. Is not as deep, but the final two pieces that I'm gonna do that are companion pieces for each other definitely are trigger warning. So I just want to give that caveat before that they are pretty intense pieces. But my poetry really is. The only way I know how to deal with stuff is to get it out on paper. I am an open book. I am not ashamed of anything that I've gone through in my life or any of my journey. My story is my story. And if I can help anyone else through the things that I share, then that is my goal to do. So the last two pieces that I'm going to do are definitely probably my most personal pieces that I've ever written, but I also am really, really proud of them. And they are, I'd say, probably, some of my best work that I've done to date, but I may be a little biased. But this is also a new one that I'm really excited to really lock down and get going. And it's called Two Faced. Every man that I have ever entertained has presented me with two sides of an imperfect coin. I oftentimes get asked why I don't write love poems. And my response is the portraits of love that have been presented don't allow me to paint them with a brushstroke colored in shades of valor, but rather in a more honest hue of villain. At least the Joker wore his mask on the outside, making his true intentions much harder to look away from. Unfortunately, my choices have been more Batman and Superman and their clandestine trickery. Never really knowing if I was in the presence of Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I saw a superhero within a facade. I could even say that I had become the villain in my own story. allowing their sweetly whispered words to cover up the treachery of the villain they truly were, less of the victim they wanted me to believe in. As I became the punchline to their dastardly deeds, never being allowed to see the inner sanctum of the Batcave. Little did I know that I was always searching for something in someone who couldn't even align their own duality enough to have their own reflection be in alignment. I mistook their masks for mirrors, believing my own reflection was twisted in their lives, but now I see it was not I who wore the villain's cape. It was my need for a hero that tethered me into the bat signal. I have learned to stop seeking those who claim to save, for their capes hide more than they reveal. Instead, I have stripped away my own mask. No longer hiding in shadows, becoming the heroine of the story. I spent too long being the damsel in distress, standing in the tower of someone else's making, listening for footsteps that never come. But now I see the only black knight I ever needed was to be my own dame. No more borrowed capes, no more searching skies for saviors. I lay down the myth of needing to be saved and step into the light of my own becoming. I am the heroine not of a story written for me, but of the one I create with every breath. Each scar becomes a chapter, each triumph a verse. I do not wait for love to arrive in the form of a whispered promise or a hand to hold. I love myself with a fierceness that no villain can unravel, with a grace that only I can bestow. The rescue has always been here, not in the arms of another, but in the steady beat of my own pulse. So let the records reflect that this has become my very first love poem to myself. Thank you. And I'm going to wrap it up with these two. Like I said, these are definitely my most personal pieces that I have ever shared with the world, right? Steady beat of my own post. But they are truly a reflection of my life. It's something, that has truly shaped me as a person, as a woman. They are I do them together because they are kind of partner pieces with each other. So, like I said, it is trigger warning for abortion, and it is called Barren. For you see, I was but a child. Let me take a drink first. Hold on, or I get here. Okay, it's called Barren. For you see, I was but a child with the physical trappings of a woman. Little did I know then that my first time would be the one time I felt the essence of life within me, profoundly changed by a moment's decision disguised as choice. Over the years, I replay the sonic boom of the voices that led to choices that changed the trajectory of my very human existence as a woman. Greedy doctors who didn't explain the risk to a mother that was too embarrassed to become a grandmother. The nurses who didn't think I heard them say, "It's a girl," a secret never meant to reach my ears. In a room where, even with my eyes wide open, I couldn't see anything, could only hear, "She's losing too much blood. We're losing her. We're losing her." A womb made barren at 13. The echo of it still follows me, as if that precious baby girl, the one I never met, still calls me from the void, asking, "Why didn't you save me?" Now at 46, it's etched into the fabric of my very existence. The weight of unspoken shame lurks in every conversation, where the women talk of first steps and first words, high school graduations, and children becoming adults. I sit in the hollow silence of my own company. "Do you have children?" It's always asked so casually, as if the answer could ever be simple. They don't know about the why. They don't see the invisible scars left by years of silent grief and explanations I never asked to have to give. How do you explain a choice that was never truly yours to begin with? How do you articulate the way a barren womb feels like both a curse and a betrayal, an anchor tied to your soul? They don't understand the shame that clings to me. The societal script that says womanhood is tied to motherhood, that something is incomplete, missing. I am incomplete if you've never carried life within you, even though I did just that for almost 6 whole months. 46 and childless, the questions that come with barely mass shock that feel like daggers. No one asks how you explain a lifetime of grief for someone you never met. The life that slipped through my fingers before I even knew how to hold them. Someone who never got to call me mama. And when they act, so I carry the shame, the weight of a story I never wanted to have as my own. And when they ask, awkwardly explain, because deep down there are no words to explain a womb to explain a womb made barren at 13. Thank you. And so for my last piece, this is the partner to that one. And I always kind of feel like still that I have to do them in conjunction with each other, because this is the metaphor version of that piece. And I just feel like it doesn't make as much sense if you don't hear the original story of it first. And so this is its partner, and it's called Barren in Metaphors. I do too. For you see, I was but a seedling in bloom, wrapped in the illusion of a garden not yet grown. Little did I know then that my first spring would be the only time I'd feel life stirring beneath the soil. Changed forever by a storm, a downpour disguised as a drizzle. Over the years, the thunder still rumbles, replaying in the distance, the voices like sharp winds shifting my path, bending me into a shape I did not choose. Doctors like harvesters cut without care, never warning the roots they would sever, never explaining to a mother who stood in the shade of shame, blinded by the weeds of judgment. The nurses whispered amongst the trees, "It's a girl." A fragile bloom I was never meant to know, a truth carried by the wind, slipping into my ears like seeds blown astray. In that cold, sterile meadow, my eyes wide open, but all I could sense was the sound. She's losing too much blood. We're losing her. We're losing her. And at 13, my soil was stripped bare. A garden rendered barren before it could bear fruit. Yet still the echo of her, that delicate flower, that girl I never held, whispers my name from the wild edges, asking in the breeze, "Why didn't you save me?" Now at 46, the whispers have softened, but they still ripple beneath the earth, etched into my roots, unseen but always there. The weight of silence lingers in the spaces where women speak of blooming fields, of gardens tended with care, first steps, first words, the harvest of lives grown tall under their watch, and I sit in the barren quiet. The ground beneath me still but aching. "Do you have children?" They ask, as if the soil could ever speak the truth, as if the answer were simple, as if my garden were ever simple. They don't know the frost that came too early, the flowers that never got to open their petals. They don't see the invisible wounds left by years of untold seasons, seasons I never asked to endure. How do you explain a drought that began without warning? How do you describe a garden robbed of its bloom before it had the chance to thrive? They don't understand the barren earth that clings to me like dust. This way society tells you that without fruit, the land is incomplete. A woman without a garden, as if the soil weren't rich enough on its own, but I carried life once for almost 6 whole months. And yet they do not see the drought I wrestle with, the guilt of failing to bloom in a field I never chose. 46 and childless. The questions hang like a shadow, a dagger cloaked in disbelief, but no one asks about the garden that never grew. The blossoms that withered before I knew how to tend them. No one asked how you grieve a flower that never unfurled. A life that slipped through your hands before you knew what it meant to nurture. So I carry the shame, the weight of a barren garden, and when they ask, I smile. And when a gardener without seeds to show, but deep down, there are no words, no roots deep enough to explain a garden made barren at 13. Thank you. Thank you. Well, Nico, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I know it's deep. It's deep. I really love it though. I mean, those are my favorite pieces. Those last three that I did, Two Faced, Barren, and then Barren and Metaphors. Those are my most favorite pieces that I've ever done. And I'm really excited to be able to share because, like I said, my story, if I can help anyone, at least, maybe make different choices or know. So, yeah. But it was good seeing you. Thank you. I'm going to sign off too. Have a good one. Bye. See you in a bit. I'll be there.